Hey there guys, what is happening? We're back with the review of The Art of the Impossible book. This month of May we've dedicated to delving into this book and really going into each crevice and every crack and breaking it down and breaking it apart. I've been fascinated by some takeaways which I'm going to share with you in today's video. Let's get it.
Yeah. I'm inspired. I'm inspired.
Hey there guys, how's it going? Flow Mishkarman, Flow Mistake. My name is Sumit Chatterjee from the Flow Zone Academy, and I'm a flow state coach, which means that I help you feel better and perform better. My background is in positive psychology and coaching psychology. Today we're going to be breaking down the Bible, okay? The Art of Impossible by Steven Kotler. And now we're talking about part 2, which is all about learning. What does learning mean to you? Leave it in the comments, okay? I want to know. What's your definition of learning? Now, flow state, of course, needs to get to this level of unconscious competence. And the way that I describe that is mastery, okay? When you've achieved mastery at something, there's this automatic processing, right? You start to understand that your brain just knows the shortcuts. When you're in flow state, you don't need to think of the wittiest or catchiest metaphor to use or something like that. It just happens naturally because you're in the moment. So let's really start to look at what creates this learning and what inspires us to learn and what are the benefits of like reading and things like this, okay? This is a really, really powerful chapter, so let's get right into it. The chapter starts off with a quote by Annie Dillard, which states, "How we spend our days is how we spend our lives," okay? Now, this is a very, very important and powerful metaphor again, right? It's the smaller to grander context. I'm gonna bring up the word context a lot in this video today. My business coach Joe shared with me a very important anecdote, which I wanted to share with you guys. So basically, it's the concept of content is not king, context is king. Okay, just because you're making lots of content, it doesn't matter, because if it's not a part of the overarching context of where that content comes from, the mind frame in a sense, like the vibe behind it, it's not gonna matter, right? So this is just a reminder that you gotta be aware and conscious of the vibe behind what you're doing and how you're learning, right? Which is why it starts talking about growth mindset. Now, learning is something invisible, as they say. So how can you measure something that cannot be seen? Gary Klein states that there's 8 types of knowledge that is only visible to experts, and these are patterns novices don't notice, anomalies or events that didn't happen or violated expectations, big picture thinking, the way things work, events that already happened in the past or will happen in the future, differences too small for novices to detect, and their own limitations. We're understanding the larger framework of all of this is lifelong learning, okay? The Art of Impossible is about lifelong learning because it is that infinite game, as we mentioned in the earlier videos, right? Steven states that lifelong learning is foundational to satisfaction and well-being, and we must maximize the time that we spend in that challenge skills ratio pocket, in that zone, and how we maintain it over periods of time. So the fixed mindset makes new information acquisition more difficult. Growth mindset, however, it saves you time because it's absorbing new information and looking for new possibilities and opportunities. They're looking at mistakes as opportunities. They're looking at mistakes as lessons. So how do we measure something that is unseen? Well, in terms of learning, you want something called truth filters in your own specific way. Like, what are your values, right? What are your truth filters, in a sense, to make sure that you are narrow and going towards your goal, right? Straight line system. So Steven tells you to create your own rigorous truth filter that will keep you going in the long term. These are things like 5 expert rule, as they mention, or even as Steven described in the book, first principle thinking, or even using something like the scientific method to measure your results. This was really important for me to hear. You can't get to impossible on bad information, okay? So if you're not getting the data from the thing, you're not going to be able to lean into this Art of Impossible or learning quest. Next, he talks about the value exchange, or the ROI, or return on investment, of reading books and blogs and articles. Reading is so important, but we overlook it. Not a lot of people are reading books nowadays. I mean, it's part of the reason why we started this book club, right? Because all of us noticed it. We're like, hey, have we even read a book in a while, right? We're all listening to audiobooks and stuff like this. But no, it's really important that we train ourselves for this very, very special gift. And this book is like one of the keys that unlocks it, in a sense, which is very, very powerful. And it gives us that leverage, that sweet momentum behind it to give us a way forward. So thank you, Stephen, for gifting us with this book. So here's the context. A blog, maybe you read for 3 minutes, but it took the author like 3 days of like researching the topic, finding different things to write about, gathering together a draft, revising the draft. So look at the ROI and what you're getting. Maybe you spend 20 minutes reading an article, let's say. That article was put together in 4 months. You spend maybe 5 hours reading a book. Well, guess what? That book was put together for 15 years. So really understand the ROI of like what you're getting, right? In terms of reading. It makes it such a grateful experience, right? You start to go, wow, I'm getting so much for so little. That's amazing, right? That's amazing. Like really feel into that, because that switch of, you see, perspective is actually one of my top strengths, right? If you do the VIA strengths questionnaire, which I highly recommend everybody to do that quiz, because we talk about strengths later on in this chapter as well. But I highly recommend you either do Clifton strengths or VIA character strengths as you're watching this video. Find out what your top strength is. That's really going to help you move you forward in whatever it is that you do, right? Your business, your athletics, your sleep schedule, whatever it is. Everything is going to expound upon you using your strengths. Pattern recognition is another interesting thing you brought up, and this stacks the new knowledge so we can keep it moving forward and we see things within that bigger frame or that grand context where all the pieces connect. So he mentioned something for learning subjects that's not necessarily for skill development, though he mentions improving the skill of gaining skills in the first place. So the first one is just read 5 stupid books before you get to the 5th book, which is the main difficult book you want to read. You get to 5 stupid books. Before that, he just uses this as an understanding basically. But let's say you want to learn a specific subject that you really want to learn, right? You would go with the most best-selling book on that subject first, right? The most easiest to consume and digest. Then you'd go with a more technical book. Then you'd go with a semi-technical book. And then you'd go for the actual difficult, hard book to consume. This would be the process of you doing, getting that learning, and you're priming your learning in this sense, right? It's really creative stuff here, right? You can do the same thing with your affirmations. I stack my affirmations 100% true, 100% true. Then you go to 99% true, 98% true, right? And then we slowly stack it. We stack it, we stack it. And this stacking mentality is really, really powerful in this book. Next is to be the idiot. Be open to learning, right? Have that mindset of Shoshin, beginner's mind. Empty the cup. Ask questions. Of course, record sessions or conversations that you have with people with consent, obviously, and note-taking as well. Take copious notes. Note-taking is a fabulous skill. I mean, this is how I'm really riffing off of these ideas on this video, from taking notes on it. Now you got to explore the gaps, or as my uncle calls it, lacunae, okay? Basically, you want to realize that there are some gaps in the marketplace where your niche is, or even the gaps of where you're working, right? Or thriving in your industry, in your field, in your context, in your paradigm, in your world, right? Where are the gaps, right? Would this work in another field of context? Let's say you're really good at journalism. Would that journalism context, or the way that you've been doing things there, apply to another industry? This is really important to think about, and we look at these gaps in the marketplace, or gaps in our thinking, and we go there, right? We look and we filter through the gaps. We build bridges between these two subject fields, and this is what makes us impossible doers. It's about what's missing and really mastering fear, right? Mastering fear is one of the key things that connects all, learning experiences. Again, I keep mentioning it, man, but hey, my lacunae, in a sense, or my missing piece to this puzzle of flow state, is I help people go from a fear state of mind to a flow state of mind. And, I build the bridge for you to get there. Then he gave the example of, Tim Ferriss. Obviously, he was a high performer. He has his own podcast, things like this. Tim hunts for overlaps. He finds leverages and things. He understands which mistakes to avoid, and he moves forward, elegant. Stephen really mentions this 80-20 rule, not only in regards to learning, but also in regards to emotional intelligence, which I think is really interesting. Focus your learning on 20% of the information that will make 80% of the difference. Martin Seligman, one of the founding fathers of positive psychology, you could say. Seligman says we need to increase our flow by using our top 5 strengths. As I mentioned earlier, you can do these strengths quizzes, or a great method mentioned in this book, which they mention, is look back to your 5 past wins, okay, 5 past victories, and look back at what were the strengths that got you towards those victories. Very interesting way to work within that context too, if you don't want to use some kind of a scientific questionnaire to do this, right? And of course, you want to get specific here. It's all about specificity and really getting clear, right? SMART goals, obviously, right? For example, in this book, they talk about, let's say you had long nights in the library. That would be more like intellectual rigor rather than persistence. Persistence would be kind of a smaller way of saying that strength, but intellectual rigor is really gets more specific in terms of that strength. You see what I'm saying? So we want to get more clear on our strengths. This actually inspires me because I think of, yes, perspective is my strength, but what are the sub-strengths underneath my perspective that are creating pillars for it? And I think that this is a new type of thinking, and I'm just coming to understand this. But let me know what you guys think of this and give it a thumbs up if this resonates with you and you found value in this video today. So your strengths are there to advance your cause, okay? We want to get to our purpose, as we mentioned earlier. By the way, guys, if you're watching this video, there are 2 other videos before this, so you want to watch that before coming to this video. It helps if you've read the book too. Again, I'm not here to police you, but then again, this is for my tribe, okay, the Flow Jedis. Let's get it. If you want to join the Flow Jedis, you can join our Telegram group, okay? The link will be in the description of this video, okay? And how do we harvest these seeds of learning? When our learning matches who we are. Oh, that's that rocket fuel right there, okay? That is that magnum opus. That is that moment for you, okay? That is infinity. The way I understood emotional intelligence, or EQ, is there is a relationship with ourselves and our relationships with others. The relationships with ourselves can be said as self-awareness and management, and our relationships with others can be described as social awareness and relationship management. I thought this was really cool and such an easy thing to do, but I think a lot of us miss out on it, is when we're in a very highly charged situation, like an emotional situation, we want to take a deep breath, like a few conscious deep breaths before we react to that or say something or use that information. We want to find the gaps. We want to explore that space right before we're about to impulsively say something. Because our words create a world. As Wittgenstein said, the limits of my language are the limits of my world. So when you get into this autopilot awareness or the zombie mode, just take a bit of a deep grounding breath. And what do you do with this breath? What are you thinking about? You're getting clear on your motives. You're getting really clear on your motives. Why am I doing what I'm doing? What am I trying to get from this conversation? What is my agenda? What is really going on, right, underneath the surface of this? What am I trying to get across to this other person? Really coming back to your motives, your why. There's patience, there's genuine relating to others. There is a sense of empathy. There's a sense of active listening. There's all of these great things that underlie emotional intelligence. And the cool thing is this book reveals that we can actually train our empathy by watching others. Yes, there's that mirror neurons thing that happens, right? When we observe somebody else feeling through something on a movie screen, we get that feeling internally too. And a great question to ask ourselves during this time is, how would I feel in that situation? Does this manifest as something like a tingle or an ache or an itch? Is there some kind of a color perception associated with this? I know when I do emotional clearing work, we get really specific on the emotion. We try to describe it as a character. We try to get clearer on what is the color that you're getting? What is the object or the archetype or the symbol that's coming up, right? When we get more clearer on our emotions, guess what? We're building our emotional intelligence. It's not this vague amorphous thing anymore, right? A lot of people, they can't even communicate how they feel, right? My mentor was talking about this the other day, like, we can't even say how we feel, right? And then we feel this resentment of not communicating, and we just hold it within ourselves, and like we hold it, and it starts to manifest as sickness and stuckness and illness, right? That understanding, and also the understanding of truth filters for me, is really, really valid. There was 2 other steps in this. Please ask the next question and find the narrative. Those were the next ones, right? There's always an underlying narrative to something. Brains were designed to link cause with effect, right? As Viktor Frankl said, there is a space between stimulus and response, and I'll meet you there, That's where freedom lies, or whatever it was, right? That quote is so powerful that really sets us on a new trajectory, right? Now we're looking at using our imaginations and using our emotions with our imaginations. Like the Max Planck Institute, for instance, has been doing these compassion-related meditations and these empathy imagination exercises. When flow is the reward, our learning shifts from something very conscious to automatic from habit and joy. We've got to understand the quote of other people matter, okay? Emotional intelligence is crucial for your chance at success. David Epstein has this book called Range, and he believes that match quality is related to higher learning rates. Accelerated learning and enhanced grit is like compound interest. Oh, comic books. Dinosaurs are better than comic books, right? The example they give in the book. Trial and error coming along with self-knowledge. It's all about energy, right? To get to match quality, we love what we do, right? And to get to that understanding, we're getting our biological systems to work for us. If we keep playing this game for years, this is going to exceed our imaginations. I hope you enjoyed this video today. If you have any questions, shoot me a message. Let's get it today. Upward Spiral Gang. May we never be the same again. Keep reading this book. Hit that subscribe button.